I'd like to call this meeting to order. Will the secretary please call the roll?
Mrs. Chu?
Here.
Mr. Sismar?
Here.
Mr. Hong?
Here.
Mrs. Lax?
Here.
Mrs. Reese?
Here.
Mr. Seeler?
Here.
Mr. Simmons? Mr. Winston?
Here.
And President Becker.
Here, we have a quorum. Please rise to salute the flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The New Jersey Open Public Meetings Law was enacted to ensure the right of the public to have advance notice of and to attend the meetings of public bodies. In accordance with the provisions of this act, the East Brunswick Board of Education has caused notice of this meeting to be published by having the date, time thereof posted at the Board of Education offices, and written notice was also provided to the Sentinel, the Newark Star Ledger, the Home News and Tribune, and the Municipal Clerk of East Brunswick. All Board of Education meetings, with the exception of executive session discussions, are videotaped for later broadcast. It is the policy of the Board of Education that videotape meetings are not edited for any purpose. Individuals who speak at the board's public meetings should be aware of these videotaping rules. Good evening. Offices, that's my Long Island accent, I'm sorry. It just really sounded pronounced to me tonight. Okay, we're going to start off this evening with our Superintendent's Report. Dr. Valesky?
Thank you, President Becker, and good evening. I'm Carrie Valesky, filling in for my dad on Take Your Child to Work Day. On April 11th, we hosted an ice cream social for all first-year teachers. We thank the first-year teachers for their dedication and commitment to the students of East Brunswick schools. The staff members enjoyed having a chance to gather socially and reflect on the year. Congratulations to BHS biology teacher Ann Sinelli for an article published in the National Science Teachers Association Monthly Journal, Learning Molecular Biology Through Storytelling describes how teachers can unravel the complexities of cellular biology by creating picture-based structure/function narratives using the Rutgers University Protein Data Bank as a resource. Mrs. Sinelli works closely with the Rutgers University Waxman Institute and the Rutgers University Protein Data Bank team each year to support the honors research science class she teaches at the high school. April is Autism Awareness Month. Once again, East Brunswick Public Schools joins forces with our large community to educate and raise awareness about autism. This year's theme is Autism Awareness, Choose Kindness. We join Special Education Director Renee Davis and Dr. Christy Schutz, Supervisor of Special Education Special Class Programs, and their staff in promoting autism awareness in East Brunswick. The track invitational was a great success for all 30-plus teams that helped participated. Thanks to the Booster Club and coaches that helped coordinate a great event. In girls lacrosse, congratulations to Maggie Goldberg for reaching the 200 saves and Maddie Farrell for reaching the 100-point milestone. Good luck to all spring sports as GMC tournament time is coming up fast. My 5th State of District address will take place at 6:30 p.m. on Thursday, May 23rd at the JM PAC. Once again, I will share the accomplishments of the district. Following my remarks, our teachers and students will showcase innovative classroom practices in the Hammersholt cafeteria. Special thanks to the East Brunswick Education Association and East Brunswick Principals and Supervisors Association who are partnering with me this event. I hope to see you there. We are pleased to announce this year's Wall of Honor inductees. You are invited to celebrate these outstanding former East Brunswick team members at a ceremony preceding the May 30th board meeting. The honorees and their former positions are here. Holly Howard, board member. Beth Warren, administrator. Tonight we will be presenting Resolutions of Appreciation for Administrative Professionals Day and Faculty/Staff Appreciation Day. I would like to thank all members of the organization for their dedication to the students of East Brunswick Public Schools. Thank you.
Oh, that was wonderful. You might have just talked yourself out of a job there, Chief.
He's available. You can speak to his agent after the meeting.
Oh, is that it?
That's it.
Awesome.
Did you expect more from me?
No.
I'm not going after
We're
that.
very happy. Thank you. Okay, so first up, we have a resolution of appreciation. And can I please have a motion for the following? Whereas all members of the faculty and staff contribute to the excellence of the school district, and whereas all members of the faculty and the staff are partners in the education of our students, and whereas all members of the faculty and staff play an essential role in creating a welcoming and secure learning atmosphere in which all students are able to achieve to the fullest extent, and whereas the dedication and commitment of all members of the faculty and staff are directly related to the outstanding accomplishments of our students, and whereas there is no greater legacy than the sound education our students receive, therefore be it resolved that the East Brunswick Board of Education proclaims May 6th through 10th, 2019 as Faculty Staff Appreciation Week and commends all members of the faculty and support staff for the time and effort they devote to our students.
So moved.
Moved by Mrs. Lags.
Second.
Second by Mr. Hong. Is there any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? Motion carries. Want to go?
Joe, I'll follow you.
And we're presenting to
Dana and Lisa.
Dana Zandicki, head of the East Brunswick Education Association, and Ms. Knoppenberger, secretary. Thank you so much. Thank you.
This way.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
And the other one as well.
Oh, so we'll just do it from
Yeah,
up here,
yeah.
so we won't get up and down again. Okay, we have another resolution. This is for Administrative Professionals Day. Whereas administrative professionals are partners in the education of our students, and whereas administrative professionals play a major role in creating an environment that is conducive to learning in our schools, and whereas administrative professionals provide valuable services to our students, faculty, staff, parents, and other members of the community, and whereas administrative professionals are essential to the efficient, effective operation of the schools, and whereas administrative professionals facilitate important communication between the schools, parents, and other members of the community, and whereas administrative professionals help to maintain the excellent reputation of the district. Now be it resolved that the East Brunswick Board of Education proclaims Wednesday, April 24th, 2019, as Administrative Professional Days in the district and expresses appreciation to our administrative professionals for their dedication and commitment to our students and our schools.
So moved.
Moved by Mrs. Lack, second by Mrs. Reese. Is there any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion carries. Let's hear it for our administrative professionals. Okay, the next item on our agenda will be a report by the East Brunswick Police Department. Dr. Valesky?
I'm happy to introduce Captain Kevin Zebra, who serves as a liaison to the East Brunswick Public Schools through the police department. And he's here to give a report on the incident that occurred at the high school that was discussed at our last regularly scheduled board meeting. So Captain Zebra.
So you don't want to, but I have to follow Carter? How fair is that, right? Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Good evening. On behalf of Chief Conroy and Prosecutor Carrie, I'd like to thank you for having me come tonight to actually speak about the incident from April 10th. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to speak regarding the incident, but from the investigation report. Detective Adams, who is the school resource officer at the high school, actually conducted the investigation, handled the case, and I'm going to take basically his words and explain to you, summarize some parts, and actually read directly off his report for a lot of parts. Also understand that because it involves juveniles and juvenile matter, that all the names have been redacted, right? You will not hear any names. Certain things will also be redacted because I know there is recordings and there are curse words that were said during the case of this altercation. So I'm not going to also publish them so that anybody viewing it doesn't become offended by the curse words. So again, Detective Adams was on duty at the high school and was contacted by Principal Vanella on the report of an assault. Principal Vanella reported to him that student number 2 instigated a physical altercation with student number 1. During the altercation, racial slurs were directed towards student number 1. Dr. Vanella also stated that both parents were notified of the incident. So what happens now that Detective Adams has this information, he now starts to conduct the investigation. Detective Adams spoke with student number 1, and student number 1 stated on April 9th, which is a day before the altercation, student number 2 was cursing at her and her friends. And this was the result because of a table that they were sitting at, which student number 2 felt was her table, the same table she had sat at for every day. Student number 1, her friends ignored the curse words, and no further incident occurred that day. On April 10th, and this occurred in the morning hours, just sometime after 7 a.m., student number 1 and her friends were sitting at the same table. Student number 1 was using her computer to complete homework when student number 2 came and hit her computer when she dropped a baby carrier on the table. So student number 2 was in the class that they had the babies and the baby carrier. She placed it on the table, thus starting the entire event. Student number 1 told student number 2 that you're hitting my computer and can you move your stuff? At which point student number 2 began cursing at student number 1 and her friends, stating, "This is my effing table. I don't give a curse word about you or your friends." Now again, this is student number 1's point of view discussing it with Detective Adams. Student number 1 replied by stating, "Move your effing stuff," at which time she then pushed student number 2's baby carrier away from her computer. Student number 1 then explained that student number 2 replied, "Your curse word headscarf is driving you crazy, you Muslim curse word, you smell like trash." Student number 1 stated student number 2 retrieved perfume from her book bag and sprayed it directly at her and her friends. Student number 2 then walked away and sat on a chair. Short time later, student number 1 stated she took a picture of student number 2 to bring to the main office to report the incident. It was later learned that student number 1 did not know student number 2, and that was, as she put it, the reason why she was actually taking the picture. When student number 2 saw student number 1 taking the picture, she became aggressive and spat and spit in student number 1's face. At this point, student number 1 stated she stood up and went after student number 2. Student number 1 pulled her hair. Student number 2 punched student number 2 in the face, which caused student number 1 to fall to the ground and hit her head. A teacher then arrived and broke up the fight. Again, this entire incident so far is student 1's perspective to Detective Adams. At the conclusion of the interview, with student number 1, student number 2 posted on Snapchat, a social media application, that she was being placed in a conference room located in the main office. The Snapchat was a partial picture of student number 2 with the words, "That's okay," curse word, "because your raghead," curse word, "got you blank beat." Then Detective Adams from there reviewed the video. The video of the incident is similar in nature to what student 1's statement was. So again, I will paraphrase some from his report on this. Student 1 or 2 friends were sitting at the table outside the cafeteria, and again, this is all now about the October 10th, April 10th, the date of the actual altercation. Student number 2 walks directly over to the table where they are sitting and drops the baby carrier directly on the table, causing it to hit student number 1's laptop, as already stated. A verbal exchange occurs. Again, we don't hear the verbal exchange. We don't hear any of the audio on the video. Student number 2 removes the baby carrier from the table, takes a plastic bag off the chair directly next to student number 1, and throws the bag at student number 1. Student number 2 then moves the baby carrier and her book bag to a different location. She also reaches into her book bag and pulls out a bottle, again, identified later as the perfume bottle. And she sprays it on student number 1 in the direction of her friends. Student number 2 puts it away, grabs her bag, and proceeds to walk to another location. Student number 2 continues to engage student number 1 verbally and makes numerous gestures with her hand, including giving her a gesture with a finger. Student number 2 then moves her belongings to another location near the table where student 1 was sitting. Student number 1's friend begins a conversation with her and then with student number 2. So this is the witness. They engage in a conversation. A male also walks up to student number 2 and appears to be attempting to calm student number 2 down. A short time later, student number 1 uses a cell phone in an attempt to take a picture of student number 2, as discussed earlier, to identify who she was. When student number 2 observed student number 1 taking the picture, she became aggressive towards student number 1 and began to verbally engage her. The individual who was with student number 2 attempted to hold her back, but student number 2 continued and then spat on student number 1. At that time, student number 1 got up from her chair and attacked student number 2 by pulling her hair. Appeared to be trying to pull, the individual appeared to be trying to pull student number 2 away from the situation, but was unable to. The students ended up on the floor until a teacher broke up the fight and separated the students. During the struggle, both girls were pulling each other's hair, and consequently, student number 1's hijab was removed. I spoke to Detective Adams on the phone tonight, and he reiterated to me, because again, I was not there and I was not part of this investigation, that student number 1's hijab was removed as a result of the fight. It was not removed leading up to the fight. It was not pulled from her head. It was a result of the altercation between the two girls. After Detective Adams observed the video and some conversation with the administration and parents or guardians that were there, student 2 was placed under arrest and transported back to headquarters. At headquarters, Detective Adams spoke to student number 2 and with her guardians present, and asked her, basically starting off, did you know who student number 1 even was? And she replied she didn't even know her name. When she was asked about the incident that occurred on April 9th, student number 2 explained that the altercation occurred. Student number 2 stated that she sits at the same table every day. However, student number 1 and her friends were sitting there, and there was no space for student number 2 or her friends to sit. She was expressing her frustration out loud to another student by stating, "This is effing ridiculous. I can't believe they are sitting here." She used a curse word, that's why I left that out. Student number 2 explained during her conversation with her friend and her other friend, again, it's very difficult in trying to leave out names and characterizations. The girls at the table called the student number 1 over, and she overheard them talking about her. She continued to talk to her sister and boyfriend and not say anything back. Student number 2 explained that on today's date, again, April 10th, that student number 1 and her friends were sitting at the table again. Student number 1 had her laptop out when she approached the table. She explained that she put the baby carrier on the table, and student number 1 stated, "You hit my laptop, you're going to break my laptop." Student number 2 replied by stating it's a $750 baby, and she was not going to remove it. Student number 2 explained that she became aggravated, and both began to argue. Student number 2 stated to student number 1, "You have bad body odor. You effing stink. Your parents have to invest in a shower." Student number 2 admitted that she threw an empty bag of chips, sprayed the student with perfume, and called her a racial slur. After that occurred, student number 2 explained that she walked away and stood in a hallway, then moved to the table at the back and began complaining to her friend. Student number 2 stated during the time she was speaking with her friend, Student number 1 took out a phone and took the picture, which made her very aggravated and upset. Student number 2 then explained she got up while her friend was trying to hold her back and spat at student number 1, at which point student number 1 then got up and attacked her. Student number 2 explained they were pulling each other's hair and punching each other until a teacher came and actually separated them. Student number 2 claims that student number 1 called her a white privileged curse word, but seemed to be unsure when student number 1 said it. After student number 2 was moved to the main office, She stated she posted a comment on Snapchat because of another post that was posted about the incident. Detective Adams then contacted the Middlesex County Prosecutor's Office Juvenile Division, and after speaking with them concerning the events and the background of the case, they agreed, after discussing the facts of the case, it was determined that student number 2 will be charged with cyber harassment, simple assault, harassment, and disorderly conduct. On April 11th, which is the next day, Detective Adams had a follow-up phone interview with student number 1. It was determined that the claim student number 1 called student number 2 a white privileged curse word was an inaccurate account by student number 2 and did not seem to have credibility. On April 12th, Detective Adams also spoke with a witness, and the witness basically mirrored the statement of student number 1. And that, again, the conversations, there was a brief argument. Picture was taken by a cell phone to identify who student number 2 was. Student number 2 became aggressive and spit on student number 1. Student number 1 then went after student number 2 and engaged in a physical altercation until the teacher broke up the fight. And for the rest of the report basically just reads about our procedures and stuff and to what Detective Adams had to do from there. And again, on behalf of Chief Conroy and Prosecutor Carrie, I'd like to thank the board. I'd like to thank for the opportunity to come and speak. I know there's been a lot of rumors and innuendos on social media. There's been a lot of dialogue, and we just wanted to actually get it out into the public so everybody knew the facts of the case as best as we can describe them without violating any juvenile rights or violating our particular investigation. Because understand that the case is still under review by the prosecutor's office. It will be adjudicated and followed through family court, and it is constantly being reviewed and investigated by the prosecutor's office. They are the lead agency in this case, and at this point, that's really all that we can talk about or say with regard to the investigation. So, Dr. Valesky, thank you.
Thanks, Captain Zebro.
Thank you, sir.
And I just want to add that, you know, hearing the report is disturbing. We take it seriously, and we have engaged the U.S. Department of Justice to help us navigate through the next processes. A representative from the agency is in the audience tonight, and the board will be briefed later. But there already has been a meeting at the high school. I sent an email out to the community yesterday, and there will be other meetings that will occur as a result of that, and we're taking our guidance from the U.S. Department of Justice.
Thank you, Dr. Valesky. And we want to move forward, and we continue with our efforts to promote what we have always promoted: tolerance, acceptance, and respect in East Brunswick. And to that end, we have mentioned that after we conclude the budget and things have settled down a bit, we will be putting together an ad hoc committee to come together as a town and explore together what tolerance, respect, and acceptance means to all of us. So thank you again for coming, sir. Are there any comments?
No, I also want to add, thank you, Dr. Valesky and Mrs. Becker. I think these actions are going to move us forward in the right direction. We just need to continue to engage in a town-wide dialogue and, address kind of underlying concerns.
Thank you. Okay, and now we have for the good of the cause for the public. The Board of Education recognizes the value of public comment on educational issues and the importance of providing an opportunity to the public to express themselves on school-related matters of concern to the residents of East Brunswick. To allow for a fair and orderly public comment period, individual comments are limited to 5 minutes. Members of the public are reminded that this is a public televised meeting of the Board of Education. And to protect the privacy of all students and staff, concerns regarding individual students and staff members should generally be addressed by first meeting with the appropriate administrative staff. Before I ask if there's anybody who'd like to address the board, I just wanted to remind you, if Mr. Juliana gives you a 1-minute warning, it's not, please don't take it personally. We just literally time the 5 minutes, and we'll try and let you know ahead of time to wrap up. Also, The East Brunswick Board of Education's philosophy towards the good of the cause for the public is this is your time to come and talk to us, and not to worry about us intruding on that or us engaging you in a dialogue or questioning you. We respect the public's right to come and talk to us, which is why we don't engage in a dialogue. But we listen to every single word that's being said, I can promise you. So, now, is there anybody who wants to talk to the board tonight? Come to the microphone, please.
Let me add that for students, please do not state your address. Just indicate that you are, if you are a student, your name and you are a student.
I can't say my name, or?
You can say your
Okay,
name.
I thought I heard it. I was like, wait. Okay. Hello, everyone. I'm Max Frederick, and today I'd like to address a matter of utmost importance, that being the constant and persistent waste of single-use plastics throughout the EB school system. Let's do the math. There's about 8,000 students in the EB public school curriculum, and at the very least, half of them buy lunch consistently. Each of these lunches comes with a styrofoam tray, whether it be holding a slice of pizza or a styrofoam or a plastic bowl. So within a single school year, which is 180 days, the public school system throws out approximately 700,000 styrofoam trays. Add all of the other single-use items used in the cafeteria, like cutlery and plastic straws, and the numbers are immeasurable. Along with this, plastic used in our public schools isn't even recycled. Recycling facilities are incapable of processing so much plastic, and even if it is recyclable, an overwhelming amount of it still ends up in landfills, whether it's thrown into a recycling bin or a garbage bag. The point is, we need to begin replacing these plastics immediately. Unfortunately, the burden of decades of neglect for this issue has fallen to us as well. We need East Brunswick to take the initiative and lead the way for this unbelievably essential change. Families move to EB because of its reputation and high academic standards. I believe we should take the initiative and hold ourselves to the same standards environmentally. We have to respect the environment, correct our mistakes, and become aware of our massive ecological footprints, and it needs to become a priority. We all need to take responsibility for our choices, and we need to start purging our environment of these toxins. It's up to us to correct these harmful, detrimental habits. Single-use plastics undoubtedly make life easier, but they cause substantially more bad than good. A single plastic item can take up to a millennia to decompose, leaving tediously microscopic bits of plastic everywhere from the water to the soil. These plastic pieces get introduced by into the food chain by animals that believe that it's food, which then get eaten by bigger animals and eventually get eaten by us. By not getting hold of this problem, we're eating our own garbage. While there is a high price tag to use substitutes for these single-use plastics, these reforms would benefit the whole of our town and drastically decrease the annual expenses of these cafeteria supplies in the long run. Instead of spending a cut of the yearly budget on items used for less than half an hour, substitutes such as metal cutlery and reusable trays would be able to be used for well into the future. Every single plastic item we use in the cafeteria can be substituted for something that would not only last infinitely longer, but would also make a significant positive effect on the ecosystem. Metal cutlery, more durable trays, ceramic bowls, even reusable bottles, these can all be substituted in for the current decisions on cafeteria supplies. The current circumstances of our ecosystem and those across the world demand this movement to become a priority. Let's make those hard choices for the greater good. We need to form these new habits, change our way of life for the better, and protect the world we live in. If massive businesses like Starbucks, McDonald's, and Dunkin' Donuts can stop using single-use plastics, then so can we. Lastly, I'd also like to thank all of you who came to show your support for me and sign the petition that I made, which currently has around 1,200 signatures. So would it be possible to work together and implement some of these changes that we so desperately need?
Was that a rhetorical question, or?
Oh, no, that was it. As in, like, that was my finisher, yeah.
Yes. Yes, we can absolutely work together. Absolutely.
Thank
You've
you.
done an outstanding job. It takes a lot of poise and character to stand up at that microphone and address a room full of people. And I assume this is your family in the front row.
Yeah.
And I hope they're extremely proud of you, because not everybody can do what this young man just did. You delivered a very powerful message in a very articulate way, and we did listen. Do you have a copy of the petition for us also?
It's actually electronic.
No
It's on
problem.
change.org.
I can do I know how to do that.
Yeah.
If you send it to me, I could open it.
Yeah, of course.
All right.
And I met with Max and Dr. Vanilla yesterday morning, and we administratively were committed as well. So we discussed some ideas that we could pursue. So.
And we hope that you stay involved with this. This
Yeah, of
isn't
course.
just something that we want to address with staff or administrators, but with students like yourself who are really passionate about this, because I think you could give us a lot of good ideas. Thank you very much for taking the time to come speak to us.
Good job.
Anyone else? Did anyone else want to?
Deborah Zittimer, 8 Francis Road.
Pardon me, can you repeat your name?
Deborah Zittimer.
Thank you.
Members of the board, I want to thank you for your reconsideration of the proposed changes to the 2019-2020 Hammersholt student schedule. Not nearly enough time and consideration was given to this recommendation, and I'm delighted that you see the value and worth of not rushing into a plan that would have had significant implications on our students' education. Mr. Simmons isn't here, but I would like to thank him in particular for taking time out of his schedule to address the concerns I brought to his attention in an appropriate and respectful way. Where others chose to wave off the concerns as misunderstandings or hysteria, I feel that he did not. It would be well advised for some of the other board members and administrators, not all of the other board members and administrators, to take note on how to speak and conduct themselves in front of an educated, concerned, and involved community. As for the continued, quote, exploration of data-driven decisions related to the cycle and math concerns within the schedule, do not think we who have raised concerns are going to stop paying attention to the decision-making process. Up until this point, there has not been one piece of data offered as evidence for the need of this near change. Transparency is of the utmost importance, and we're not going to stand by idly while this poor plan of action is pushed through at a later time, if this poor plan of action is pushed through at a later time. The decisions you make, and in this case, quite cavalierly, directly affect our sons and daughters, who we demand you consider in a thoughtful, progressive, and responsible way. They are our greatest assets, our most valuable possessions, and we entrust you to provide them with a quality and meaningful education. Do not take that responsibility lightly. Remember, schools are not businesses merely to be managed in a quantitative fashion, and our children are not widgets to be stamped out of the same mold. Thank you.
Anyone else wishing to address the board?
Good evening. Carrie Hennessy, 12 Delaware Drive. I also wanted to say thank you for pausing and reassessing this decision, and I would like to strongly encourage that the data that's being used for making these decisions be provided. We'd like to see it. And I would also like to once again reinforce the fact that special needs students who have to take study skills and classes like that are necessary for them cuts into their time for specials and electives, and they do not benefit from the same number of electives that
Good point.
you're advertising. So if you could please make sure that that's taken into consideration. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to address the board?
Hi, my name is Tierramati. I'm a scientist at the Department of Marine and Coastal Sciences at Rutgers, and I'm the vice chair of the East Brunswick Environmental Commission. And I'm here in support of Max. I'm not going to repeat anything he said because he explained everything very well. I just want to say that it would be really great to see East Brunswick School becoming more environmentally responsible and being a leader in change. And I'm looking forward to hearing more about the progress we're making together. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am. Please step up to the mic. Your name and address. Thank you.
Good evening, board members and members of the community. My name is Sarah Malika. I live at 184 Milltown Road. I'm back today because I was here at the last meeting to express my concerns, and you know, you have to be with people in good times and bad times, and we saw the message that you sent out yesterday, and it was very well received by me and everyone in the community, and the fact that a step was taken. We're not there yet, but a step was taken. And everyone had their views, and I remember how I felt, and I remember saying this very from my heart, that they're both kids, and that's how we deal with it. They're both kids, and I do feel, though, whether it's a Muslim slur or calling someone a privileged white girl or the N-word or taking someone's yarmulke off, that shouldn't be our reaction. And I left that night at 11:15, and you guys stayed, and I watched the recording afterwards, and I just feel that we should, going further, have a working I would love to be part of a team, to have a working relationship with the board, because like everyone said, we're here to stay, and our kids, our friends, it was so nice to see your son there. My son went to work with my husband today. They're friends, and they don't understand why there's two teams. There should only be one team. I know, the officer reiterated that there were rumors. There were rumors on both sides, and if you're a logical person, you try to kill rumors from both sides. Things on this side were being said, and we tried to say, no, you have to look at the bigger picture. You have to look at how hard they're working. But then there were also things that said that, well, it was blown out of proportion. And I think that's the reaction, and that's what this podium is for. It's not for formality. It's to express the concern and the right, just like we vote. We vote, and we should vote because it's our right, and we should exercise it, because a lot of places in the world, you don't have the right to vote. So even if you don't want to, you go and write something in, or you write Dr. Seuss or whatever you want to write, but you express, you don't take for granted the things that other people don't have. And that's what I wanted to say, and I wanted to say thank you for having the DOJ involved. I would like, if members of the community are involved. I know it's not easy to change a curriculum, having worked for the DOE, and the things that are required for it. And having worked in the largest school district in the state, so I know it's hard, but I know smaller programs are doable, like bring your neighbor to school day or something like that, where we can participate. And of course, the material should be vetted and appropriate. But I think that kind of one-to-one interaction would be really nice, because it'll give a non-textbook touch to this and a more one-on-one. And I would love to get to know everyone on the board. So thank you, and that's what I wanted to say.
Thank you for your comments. I do want to reiterate for the entire community, for the audience, that this is a multi-phase, multi-step process that will have a long continuum. And we are taking our lead from the Department of Justice. They are the experts in this. We're working with a conciliation specialist. They have the expertise, and I've advised my staff we're going to follow their lead. And there will be multiple phases that I believe at some point may involve community engagement, but we're not quite there yet. We have some other intermediate steps to take. So we're going in that direction, but this is a long haul for us, and it's a cultural change and a cultural awareness for East Brunswick. So
Yeah,
thank
and
you.
I just wanted to add that I really, really, from the bottom of my heart, hope that the board does not think that this is an issue for me, and I can speak for a lot of people, that just because I'm a Muslim. It's not. I would be here if it was anyone else. If you personally have a time to speak to me to see what I'm trying to do I've lived in a marginalized community, and it wasn't a Muslim community my whole life, and I'm there to speak for them, and I will be there to speak for anyone, even if it's a white kid living in Newark, right? So I just think that's my civic responsibility as an American.
If you didn't give your information to Trudy Atkins, who is right there to your left,
Okay.
at the last meeting, would you give it to her tonight,
I
please?
will. I will. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Next.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Mr. Valesky and board members, respected board members. We were here a few weeks ago with some...
Name and
Your
address.
please. Sure.
Thank you.
Sam Berjawi, 444 Old State Road, East Brunswick, New Jersey. Chocolates and flowers are still welcome.
I'll remember.
We were here a few weeks ago with a lot to digest and to process, some of it based on facts, some of it based on rumors, and not a lot of information given until probably today with regards to hearing the findings from the police officer. With that, I do want to commend the board and Mr. Valesky for really taking quick action and looking into this rather quickly. There was a message sent out that the board and Mr. Valesky is looking into the zero tolerance policy, which I think is a great step, and hopefully continue to look forward to hearing what the progress is on that as well, along with trying to see what could be done with regards to incorporating more organizations into the welcoming change within the climate of the school. You had an excellent step with regards to the DOJ CRS, and I think it's wonderful. There are also other organizations available to this district at no cost as well, and such. So I really highly encourage you to also look to other organizations to supplement the work that the DOJ is going to be doing. And I know it's a long haul process, not overnight, but certainly the steps have been taken and commended. I commend you all for that, taking that swiftly. Lastly, it is really all of the students are our responsibilities, and we all want what's best for them, regardless if it was student 1 or student 2. We need to look at the whole picture and see, what is going on with both students, right? And how can we help them? Yes, one of them got arrested, but for me, once I hear, I have a teenager as well, and for me to hear that a teenager has been arrested, I know the consequences and the statistics that show that is more likely to happen as they get older if they've been arrested when they're teenagers. So hopefully there are other programs in place to help troubled kids, to get out of this cycle. I think that adding more counselors in the school is important. I speak to several counselors, and they say they're understaffed because there's so many students, right? Because it's a good school system and they want to be there. But I think if we have additional resources to help these students out, that would be great. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, sir. I just want to make a suggestion. About a year and a half ago, we had some questions about what organizations, what clubs, what courses, what extracurricular activities we do as a district to promote tolerance and respect and understanding. And Danielle Blaylock, who is our supervisor of Student Services, did a wonderful presentation outlining it. And do we still have the link to that on our website?
We can.
If we
reactivate
don't,
it.
we will.
Right.
But I think we should also get her back. And we will let you know when she's going to come, because it addresses some of the questions that you asked and some of the things you brought up. Think it's a good idea? I think it bears repeating in person, and also I'd like to see a link to it put back on the website so that anybody can see it anytime they want. And Dr. Valesky will publicize it and let you all know when it's available. And I encourage you to watch it.
It'll be available by tomorrow.
It'll be available by tomorrow, yes.
If we don't have it up there already, if it's not. It may be available by the time we finish this meeting.
Yeah. Thank you.
Hello, Lisa
Hello.
Skarzinski, 14 Bush Parkway, East Brunswick. My request is very small and very administrative. I am the treasurer of the East Brunswick Band Boosters Association, and I believe a request was made to add a water bottle filling water cooler in the schools early in the year by the president of the Band Boosters, Lisa Clark. If someone could look at why it's not approved yet and what's holding it up potentially,
It's usually on
we would
consent.
appreciate it. You could get back to either me or Lisa Clark.
How about right now?
So I can answer that right now.
It's approved, right?
We just had a meeting of the Buildings and Grounds Committee, literally yesterday.
Okay.
We had not had a meeting previously to be able to review that. It was reviewed and is recommended for approval, and communication will be going out.
Fantastic, thank you. Don't you wish all your questions were this easy?
They should all be that easy.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Kurt Phillips,
Welcome.
6 Guitars Court, East Brunswick, New Jersey. Roughly about, I may add that the hardest job in the world is being on the Board of Education. I respect everybody's job here. I wanted to speak in reference to the Hammersholt change. Too many people, and a lot of people come and complain on the Board of Ed. And I wanted to be one of the people that come back and said, thank you for listening to the people on the board and taking the time in Hammersholt to discuss, bring a vision and more understanding of what we're doing for the math department in the changes that may take place in the future. But it's always good to have come back to the board and say you did the right thing. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Anybody else wishing to address the board? Are you getting up to go, or oh, you didn't,
I
you
don't
weren't
think-
coming to talk, okay.
Yeah, I was-
Okay, so
didn't know if
nobody,
Nick was-
we're done? Okay, then I will close the public portion. And I just want to say that we all agree to disagree, but we all agree that we're here for our children, but for ourselves. We choose to live here. And that I am left with a terrific feeling of hope and faith and renewal tonight. That we talk, we yell, we cry, we laugh, and we figure out and we move on. And that's the important part, and we move on. And I thank all of you for taking the time to come and be part of this. So, thank you. Anyone else? Okay. And now, we do have some youngsters in the evening who I'm sure really want to get home and do that homework. So we will take a 2-minute recess if parents would like to take the children home. And then we're going to resume with a very exciting meeting. So if you all want to stay. Okay, 2-minute recess. Thank you.
But I'm a fat pig.
Hello. We're back. And we have some people staying to watch the rest of our fabulous meeting. Okay, so first we have Board of Education items. I would like a motion to combine items 1 and 2.
So moved.
Moved by Mrs. Lax. Second by Mr. Chad. Any discussion? This is a roll call vote. Will the secretary please call the roll?
Mrs. Chu.
Yes.
Mr. Sismar.
Yes.
Mr. Hong.
Yes.
Mrs. Lax.
Yes.
Mrs. Reese.
Yes.
Mr. Seeler.
Yes.
Mr. Winston.
Yes.
And President Becker.
Yes, motion carries. Moving on to our curriculum agenda, can I please have a motion to combine items 1 through 4?
So moved.
Moved by Mrs. Lax.
Second.
Second by Mr. Hong. Is there any discussion?
I just quickly, the Flex.
Doesn't have to be quickly.
The Flex program, as mentioned, do we have programs for those students who have issues in the school system, and are we addressing those issues? So maybe Dr. Valesky briefly could tell folks what the Flex program does.
Sure. Thank you, Mrs. Reese. The Flex program is a board program that we adopted. We're now in our 3rd year. It is an alternative program for students now with general education and special education needs. Students who can't function in the normal school environment during the day, and this is an alternative for them to complete course credit towards graduation, toward getting an East Brunswick diploma in a setting that is in East Brunswick, but at an alternative time. So we have some students that may be working to support families or may be involved in out-of-district care. This allows them to take part in that wellness maintenance of themselves. and then return to school in the evening to earn the credits towards graduation. And they're taught, these courses are taught by a combination of our own staff and some online resources that we utilize depending on the specific needs of the student.
I remember after the first year, you told us that one of the students said to you, I would not have graduated high school if it wasn't for this program.
Absolutely.
And we never, ever want to be that big as a district that we don't care as much about that one kid graduating high school who wouldn't have done it otherwise.
Right.
So it's really an amazing program, and thank you so much for all the efforts you put into getting it off the ground, you and your entire staff.
And I have to give a lot of credit to Dr. Boley, Nicole Tibbetts, Jamie Kennard, who operates the program. Jamie's a phenomenal resource for us in the Flex program. And our students are thriving with her running that particular, and she's a full-time teacher, and she does this as an add-on to her teaching responsibilities. So it's phenomenal.
Anybody else? This is a roll call vote?
Well, hold on. As a parent of a daughter who enjoys sewing and went to fashion camp last summer, I'm thrilled about the fashion merchandising retailing class. That's something that someone who has she's gonna love that in 4 years when she gets to high school. Thank you. First time I'm voting for something for my own child. Great. Specifically for my own daughter.
What's great about it is that what we're trying to do is we're trying to give the kids opportunities to explore things that they would like to pursue. They want to try it out. Is this something I could see myself doing as a career? Is this something I want to explore further as an internship opportunity or a vocational or a college? So we're trying to respond to what we see is happening, trending at the higher education level, to give our kids just some more ideas. It's so hard at 17 or 18 to figure out what you want to do, right? So this is one way to do it. Did you call the roll yet?
I did not.
Okay, you want to do that?
Okay.
Okay.
Mrs. Chu?
Yes.
Mr. Sismar?
Yes.
Mr. Hong?
Yes.
Mrs. Lax?
Yes.
Mrs. Reese?
Yes.
Mr. Seeler?
Yes.
Mr. Winston?
Yes.
President Becker?
Yes, motion carries. Moving on to our facilities agenda, I'd like to combine items 1 through 3.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Mrs. Lax, second by Mr. Seeler. Is there any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion carries. Our financial services agenda, can I please have a motion for items 1 through 11?
So moved.
Moved by Mrs. Lax. Second by Mr. Winston. Yeah.
Never look this way. Never.
Is there any discussion? Okay, this is a roll call vote. Take it away.
Mrs. Chu?
Yes.
Mr. Sismar?
Yes.
Mr. Hong?
Yes.
Mrs. Lax?
Yes.
Mrs. Reese?
Yes.
Mr. Seeler?
Yes.
Mr. Winston?
Yes.
President Becker?
Yes, except I need to abstain under item 2, bill list, payments pending, purchase order P1902752.
Noted.
Thank you. Okay, I want to call your attention to the Human Resources addendum in front of you tonight, and that takes us to our Human Resources agenda. There's one item. May I please have a motion for it?
There are 2 items, actually. It's the item.
Oh, yeah, I just said the addendum, and I only said one because I meant to.
The item on the agenda plus the
Okay.
addendum.
Yeah, there's 2 items. Can I have a motion? Thank you, Mrs. Lax.
Second.
Second, Mr. Hong. Is there any discussion? Okay, this is a roll call vote.
Mrs. Chu? Mr. Sismar?
Yes.
Mr. Hong?
Yes.
Mrs. Lax?
Yes.
Mrs. Reese?
Yes.
Mr. Seeler?
I'm going to abstain from number 1 and vote yes on number 2.
Mr. Winston?
Yes.
And President Becker?
Yes, motion carries. Now we have a staff development item. Can I please have a discussion for contract staff development? Resolution, motion.
So moved.
Sorry, it's been a long week.
Seconded.
Lori and Barbara, thank you. Is there any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Abstained? Motion carries. May I also call your attention to a student services addendum on the table in front of you? So I'd like to combine items 1 through 4 on the student services agenda. Can I please have a motion for that? So moved. Moved by Mrs. Lack.
Second.
Second by Mr. Hung. Is there any discussion?
Just for clarification, the student services item, it's 1 through 3. The item that is on the table is the HOB report. I'm sorry. Just want to make sure folks know there isn't a 4th item.
Okay, no 4th item.
Who moved and seconded, please?
I'll do it. I'll second it.
Lori and Lewu?
Yeah.
I know, but.
It wasn't Lewu.
But Lewu did.
He did.
did?
I apologize.
Thank you.
We're getting a little, we're getting a little punchy.
She looked that way.
We're getting a little punchy. Okay, is there any discussion? Will the secretary please call the roll?
Mrs. Chu?
Yes.
Mr. Sismar?
Yes.
Mr. Hong?
Yes.
Mrs. Lax?
Yes.
Mrs. Reese?
Yes.
Mr. Seeler?
Yes.
Mr. Winston? Yes. President Becker?
Yes, motion carries. Moving on to our transportation services agenda. There's only one item. Can I please have a motion for it?
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Hung. Second by Mr. Winston. Is there any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Abstain? Motion carries.
You know, we should have buzzers.
I know, right? It's getting a little out of hand up here. Okay. Okay, now we're going to move on to committee reports, information items, and the good of the cause for the board. And as always, we will start with our student rep. Trithana, what do you have for us tonight?
Well, allergy season is in full swing, so excuse my voice and my nasaliness. So I'd like to start off with a bunch of things that have been happening around our school. So the orchestra concert actually happened last night, and it was a beautiful and absolutely wonderful concert. It was the last orchestra concert of the year, so there was a little bit of a senior send-off of sorts. Dr. Gopal made a video appreciating the seniors, and they also appreciated him and made a video for him and how much orchestra has been a pivotal part of their career, academic career at the high school. So it was an amazing experience. I also had the opportunity to play as a wind ensemble student, so it was a great collaboration too as well. We also have nationals for our IPPL students happening tomorrow, actually. So tomorrow we all will be going to represent East Brunswick High School as well as the state of New Jersey at the national competition. So we wish our students the very best. I know I'm very nervous about it. I can't speak for everyone, but we are looking forward to representing East Brunswick as well as we possibly can to the best of our abilities. We also want, what's also happening at the school is AP exams. So AP exams are going to be kicking in within the next few weeks, so many of our students are working diligently towards getting those 3s, 4s, and 5s. So good luck to them in the upcoming weeks. If I'm not here, that's probably where I am. Wish all of us luck. And May 1st is coming up, and that's a very special day to all of our seniors because it's decision day. So up at the high school, we're planning on doing some things that are a little special to send off our seniors. And one of the things that you might see around the school, you might have seen teachers posting with their diplomas and their graduation caps, pictures and from where they graduated from. And it's a great way to bring and rally the school community and spirit together. So I'm excited for that because 12th period will have an ice cream social, which is very, very nice, especially for the weather where it's very hot. But now I'd like to talk a little bit about what the Department of Justice has been doing with the school. So we actually had the opportunity, and I had the opportunity to sit in with the conversation with the Department of Justice. Ms. Ortiz, she had the opportunity to speak with us, and it was a great time to talk about communication and student voice, because student voice, Dr. Vanilla has been trying to push this year, is something that is very important through the principals' councils meetings, but now with the Department of Justice coming in. So we had the opportunity to talk about exactly the school culture, the school climate, and the school community, and how exactly can we improve upon this. As school, many student leaders took part of this, and we are planning to expand this in Principals Council as well and explain exactly what we did next week, April 30th. But we are planning to talk about how exactly can we improve transparency. So one of the things that we talked about is the implementation of ThinkPads that are happening next year, actually. ThinkPads they're part of technology, and it's in a push to get each student to have a device, but also use their devices in such a way that where they can connect with the school. So possibly having a school bulletin board online where all students will be on that bulletin board, or will use their school email so that they can receive all communications and things like that, so they can know about events such as Asian Night, or International, or the International Night's Clash of Cultures, or Collision, and things like that. So it's obviously a work in progress. There's a lot of steps, and it was a very small group that was met with initially, but we're looking to expand this reach so far to go to the point where we can include the entire school community, because that is very important. And something that also very interesting that happened was we had a school culture survey. So the school is actively taking our opinions and listening to us on what us as students need and want. So in regards to everything that's been happening, I think that is very important, and I think it's a step in the right direction, and it's allowed for us to streamline exactly where we are going or where we can go. Thank you.
Thank you so much, as always. We feel like we're right there in school with you. You give us such a vivid portrayal of what's going on in our high school. Thank you. Are there any other committee reports, information items?
I just want to wish you and the IPPL team well. Do not be nervous.
Thank you.
Especially as we're coming up on the IPPL event with the current IPPL students and the alumni for May 4th.
Yeah.
I'm hoping to see you there. And I'm sure you'll have a good success story for your upcoming.
Laura, what year did you do it?
How many years?
That's me.
How many IPPL events I'll ask it this way, how many IPPL events did you do?
How many plaques are hanging up behind the
Yes.
wall?
Yes.
Great.
Okay, there you go.
Good for you. And that was,
But actually, one was mock trial. I did Model Congress and mock trial, too.
Jeff, you went to East Brunswick High School, right?
I did.
Before me. Wait.
IPPL? Model Congress? You
No,
went?
no, I was very busy. I had a very, very.
Okay, I think we'll move on.
time.
Anybody else? Foundation? Yes, Susanna.
East Brunswick Human Relations Council, I just want to mention there are 3 vacancies. So if any friends or community members are interested, submit a letter of interest and resume to eastbrunswickhrc@gmail.com. And it's appointed by the mayor, it's a township council, on just, working together to make the community a better place for everyone.
I have one thing, this is something we talked about, and I keep saying I was going to take a formal consensus on this, and then I just forget. So we had talked about moving the time of our 8 p.m. regularly scheduled Thursday meetings to 7:30. So I would like a show of hands for those board members who would like to move our regularly scheduled 8 p.m. Thursday meetings to 7:30. Chad, we'll
I coach football starting in late July and August, so it's
We'll
tough for me to get
figure
up
it
at 8 o'clock.
Okay. Please, gentlemen, make every effort to make sure that every aspect of the school community and the community at large know about this.
Of course.
Okay, website,
Yeah, absolutely.
Facebook page, Global
When would this
Connect.
be effective?
Next meeting,
Yeah, sure,
May 2nd?
yeah.
And I know it's difficult for, especially the parents with the young kids at home that have to, run back and forth. It's really tough on you guys, but, we saw, there's little kids who come here and give us presentations, and it's really tough for these 5 and 6-year-olds to come out here and at 8
Exactly.
o'clock, and then, get home really
Sometimes
late.
they don't get
So,
till 9
it's-
o'clock or something, yeah.
So I just want to thank the board members. I know this is tough for you guys. I mean, I'm like, I do what I want when I want now, so, sorry.
So we send our kids to you on a rotating basis.
That's okay, that's okay.
Yes, Mark?
Just a question on that. Are we moving the second from 6 PM to 7:30? That was scheduled at 6 PM.
That would still be at 6.
I apologize, I misspoke. That's a retreat.
So
for.
let's give it a little thought. Let's look at the calendar and plot this out. But we will do it plenty in advance. Worst comes to worst, it'll be the first week.
May I make a suggestion?
Okay.
Since we're almost at the end of the year.
Yeah.
If this were to begin July 1 with the new calendar.
Let's think about that, okay? But whatever we do, we will give the public ample advance notice. We will not spring it on anybody. There will be at least 2 to 3 weeks advance notice. Okay? Not a bad idea. We'll give it some thought, Mr. Julians. Thank you. Okay, if there's nothing else, we do have a need for closed session. Can I please have a motion? Recommendation, the Board of Education must discuss matters which are not appropriate for discussion at public meeting. Those matters as follows, listed in tonight's agenda. Can I please? Moved by Mrs. Lack.
Second.
Second by Mr. Seeler. Is there any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed,
Giants.
abstained, motion carries. Good night and thank you.